Hello and welcome to Clock Spinning, the podcast of Magic's history as told card by card. I'm Austin, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Connor. How are you today, Connor?
I'm doing pretty good. Feeling a little old.
Old? Why?
We were driving back from dinner, and it was just starting to get dark, and the first thing that popped into my head as I started driving was, why are all these headlights so bright now?
Oh, that's not being old. That is that headlights are just too freaking bright now.
They're getting brighter, right?
No, they are. This is actually true. They are getting brighter.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I feel continually like that Caught in the Brights card from Kaladesh. That's how I feel. Like that gremlin.
Yeah, that poor gremlin. He looks so innocent.
He's so scared. Poor guy.
Well, today, besides being caught in the brights, we are coming back with another art review episode. And this time we're talking about every dark ritual art that's ever been printed.
Yep, going back to the Alpha well again, and a little bit like Counterspell, we got some tremendous highs here. We got some lows. I'll say overall, Connor, not to spoil it, I don't think the lows here are as low as some of the lows we hit with Counterspell. Generally higher standard of art here on Dark Ritual.
Yeah, a lot of the Counterspell art whiffed. But we got a pretty good batch coming up here.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. If you're new to the show, there's always a link down below the show in the show notes to a Scryfall search that's going to show all the arts we talk about today. For this episode, that is critical. We're not going to try to describe all 13 of these crazy arts. Just take a look, or you can check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll throw up an image of each card as we talk about it. Clockspinning.com has all the links to all that stuff. I don't know, Connor, you ready to dive into limited edition Alpha here?
Yeah, let's add some black mana to our mana pools.
Here, here. All right, first up, we have Sandra Everingham's limited edition alpha print of Dark Ritual. I think this one knocks it out of the park, like right off the bat. The art here is pretty simplistic by modern Magic standards, just in terms of the kind of technical execution. There's not a huge amount of depth to this piece. It's relatively simple, but it's still a really incredible piece to my mind, and not even just grading on a curve. Like, to me, you get the feeling of power from this art. You know, you see this surge of mana or energy coming out from the bottom of the frame. You get the idea of the ritual right in there through the book. And then I like this hooded figure. The figure is sinister, but also because we can't see the face, I feel like this kind of invites us to put ourselves into the art and imagine that we are the ones casting this evil ritual. And, you know, for alpha art, there's a background here. It's not an amazing background, but there is something behind the character, and that's not always a given in alpha art. I don't know. Overall, I give this very high marks. I am an S rating.
Yeah, we're already ahead of most counterspells just by having a background. Yeah, I love this one too. This card feels so old when you look at it in its alpha glory. And obviously, I've never looked at an actual alpha dark ritual in person
because it's $316.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reach. But you look at this, even here on a computer screen, it just looks so old, like this could have been printed in 1893. And you're right, the art is really simple, but really effective. You have this clearly sinister spellcaster in a spooky place using this pretty evil looking spellbook for some dark magic. Like, this is a dark ritual.
Yeah, it really brings home something you sometimes hear about the alpha beta cards in particular, is they have this spellbook quality that even just a few sets later kind of disappears as they clean up the graphic design and make the cards frankly easier to read. But like this one, where the name and the type line and the mana symbol are almost invisible, and you have just this like bubbling black frame, and then this stark text on a papyrus-like background. Like, it just looks like a spell. It's pretty cool.
It sure does. And speaking of text, this is the only dark ritual we'll see where the text box actually spells out, add 3 black mana to your mana pool.
Yeah, as in the number 3, and then the words black mana.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, from here on out until almost the very end, they all say the same thing. Add BBB to your mana pool, which is kind of cool. We have like decades of card with the exact same text, kind of like Counterspell.
Yep.
So are you at an S? I should have mentioned we are rating these for the listener on the classic YouTuber S to F scale, where S is the best, and then we got A, B, C, D, E, and F obviously is the worst rating.
Yeah, I'd give this an A. It doesn't reach quite all the way to S for me. Can't really say why. I don't know. It just doesn't pop the way that an S tier card does.
All right.
Okay, let's go to our second dark ritual from Ice Age, and this is a piece by Justin Hampton. This is one of the derpiest cards I've ever seen. It's so 2D in what to me is a really amusing way. The stones in the background, there's I guess Limdul the Necromancer is standing in kind of this Stonehenge type place with a couple of cultists.
I don't know about Stonehenge. He's literally standing in Stonehenge.
Yeah, it's basically Stonehenge. But the stones of the henge don't curve around at all the way you would expect them to. They're just sort of a flat, completely two-dimensional stone arrangement behind him. The lighting doesn't really make a lot of sense here, since we're at night and we've got these two fiery braziers, I guess, that are providing a lot more light to the scene than I'd expect them to do. There's all these like other great derpy little details here. Limdul's got this jet black armor on under his robe. It's just sort of peeking through there. It's lovingly sculpted to his pecs and abs for some reason. Like Limdul is either ripped or he's wearing a piece of armor that makes him look really ripped. It's just really fun. This is an A for me.
Oh, I can't go to A. This is just too corny to me. Like, I really want to like this art because it is kind of fun and campy and kind of old. Like I don't know, like something from I like something from the Dungeon Master's Guide, honestly, from around 1984.
Yeah.
But it's just too derpy to me and too kind of cartoonishly evil. Like, I don't buy Limdul's facial expression. The guys behind him just look kind of bored. We've got these like comically evil,
I think one of them's fallen asleep,
braziers of two muscular demons holding up a bowl of flames. Like, it's too much. It's kind of too over the top without sticking the landing for me. Like, you can either lean into the evil this hard and stick the landing, or you can lean into the silliness. And I feel like this doesn't know that it's silly. You know what I mean?
That's part of the charm to me.
Just that it's so earnest.
Yeah, it's trying so hard to be evil, except that one cultist on the right that I think is dozing off.
What is that guy doing? He does look like he's kind of about to nod off a little bit.
He's tired. It's a long ritual.
It's the middle of the night, as far as we can tell.
It is. They've been up all day. They got to get up early.
He's got a job.
This
isn't all he does. He's the apprentice.
He can't just come out to henges all night and make black mana.
Yeah, I'm a C on this. I don't hate it, but it's to me this is just middle of the pack.
Oh man.
I know. I'm sorry. It's just so comically evil. Like, to me, it looks like one of those photos I've seen of like the Church of Satan's rituals, where it's just so over the top that the effect is like community theater.
I'm very glad you brought that up, because to me, Satanism specifically, this almost feels like something you'd see in like a tract warning you that playing Magic the Gathering will imperil your soul.
Yes, add a pentagram here.
Yeah, and then that tract would probably point to this exact card as evidence that look at the evil being committed here. The card's even called Dark Ritual.
Yeah, it'd be tough to argue with that.
Yeah.
The flavor text here also to me is just pretty lame. Leshrak, my liege, grant me the power I am due. Limdul, the necromancer. Like, that's a meh.
This Limdul doesn't look like he would sound like that either.
I guess he does look like he needs help acquiring power.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump ahead to Mirage block, Magic's first African setting, with some art by John Coulthart. This is a B for me. It's not an exceptional piece, but I quite like it. I like the way it depicts like a very kind of African culture and African scene that was very unusual for Magic at the time. It's still kind of unusual now. I like the kind of paradoxical use of light and warm tones here. Like, we seem to be in a cave of some sort. It's like very black and dark, and then but the feeling of light kind of comes through this art, both in the kind of white, I don't know, what would you call it? Like kind of flow of energy coming up from below, but also the kind of golden pool of light pouring in from behind. Like, my only critique here is that I find the figures a little bit wooden and awkward looking, but overall I like this piece quite a lot. It's very unusual.
Yeah, I'm not as high on it. I think I can't really get over the stiffness of the figures. At first I felt like the lightness of the ritual that they're casting, it is like white energy and red energy. Like, it's sort of a Boros color scheme to the magic that they're calling forth here.
Yeah, I get it. It's not exactly an evil looking ritual per se.
Right. And their clothes aren't particularly evil looking either. You know, their clothes also have the Boros color scheme. Yeah,
but you have this like slight Lovecraftian thing going on with half of the white energy, right? Like, if you look closely at the right side of the frame, there's like an eyeball and a maw or something.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm
more of that, actually, please, Jonathan.
So I don't love the kind of stiffness of the figures. It sort of takes away a sense of dimension to it for me. What I do like is this kind of impression that we're in a cave, and maybe the fact that they're not wearing what we would think of as like necromancer's clothes suggests that these three spellcasters are hiding away to bring forth this energy in a way that they don't want other people to know about, as opposed to Limdul, who's just right out in the open.
It's interesting you bring up three spellcasters, because this is the first of several cards we've seen that have three of a thing. I'm not sure in this case that I buy that, there's a connection between three spellcasters, 3 mana, but there's some later ones where I think that's definitely part of the visual, the language of it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Also, the type here is funky. This is a mana source, which was a very, very short-lived type line. I think like pre-6th edition, like when they were trying to figure out how to make the rules of Magic work, but they hadn't quite figured it out.
Yeah, I was trying to confirm this. I read that this card, Dark Ritual, and another card called Culling the Weak, which is sort of Dark Ritual on steroids. It requires you to sacrifice a creature and gives you 4 black mana, are the only mana sources.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be kind of hard to Google to me.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the Scryfall search to look for a card type that no longer exists. And
yeah, I know you can search printed text, but I don't know if you can search printed type line, because there's like syntax for this. Well, we'll come back to this someday. Oh, what's your rating? So I'm a B on this. This is solid but unexceptional.
I came in with the D, but I'm gonna bring that up to a C. I like it the more I look at it.
Actually, we don't have to do this, but I'm going to come down to a C because I think C is right.
Okay. Agree on C. Okay, we've got a 5th edition Dark Ritual now by Clint Langley. And this one comes in at just a straight up F for me. I have always hated this art, and it really is not helped by the white border on the card here. I don't want to hold the frame against this art, but it's already so bad that I'm just going to do it anyway. It would be an F either way. Dark Wizard that we see here is just, he's so twisted and evil looking in such an over-the-top way that he's just kind of come full circle to looking silly to me. And he's also really symmetrical in a way that I don't like.
I'm an E on this just because I think the technical execution is quite good. There's a lot of skill that goes into the art here, but yeah, like I called the Ice Age one cartoonish. This is like clownish. Like there is no nuance to this guy. This is like something you'd see painted like in a house of horrors at a carnival or something. Yes. Like I just don't buy this art at all. It's just gourdball for me.
Yeah, he's just like, he's so evil and messed up by the darkness that he just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I will say, I think we must be somewhat in the minority on that, because if you exclude the original Alpha Dark Ritual, which, that saw 3 printings just from Alpha Beta Unlimited, this is the most reprinted Dark Ritual art. It shows up in 5th edition, and then in, what is BRB? In Battle Royale box, and then another Battle Royale box, and then a bunch DKM, whatever that was. Anyway, in supplemental sets for about 10 years, this was the Dark Ritual art, apparently.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree. It's not doing it for me.
I mean, I guess it's kind of the most generic of the Dark Ritual arts we've seen so far. Like, you could just, keep slapping this on there. There's no real context to it or recognizable character or setting.
Yeah, and it's stylistically modern enough that it wouldn't look like way out of place.
Right.
I assume none of that lifts it above an F for you, though.
Definitely not.
All right. Let's go to Ken Meyer Jr.'s art from Tempest. I just find this like just bland, just super bland. I give it a D because I don't mind it. I don't love it. It's just like just a blue guy with some blue sparkles. I do like there's a little bit of an Arabian Nights vibe going on here in my mind. Like it feels, I guess, because why is there an Arabian Nights vibe? There's sand, and he's got a ring.
Yeah.
And a beard.
The 2 main features of Arabian Nights.
Like kind of what I picture the beard Aladdin having. I don't know. I don't know why I'm even a D on this. I have so few emotions looking at it.
Yeah, this is, I think, the lowest of low points for me, art-wise. Like, this is an F minus. As much as I hated...
F minus?
This is an F minus. As much as I hated the previous art, at least that had kind of a sense of power and sinister purpose to it. This is just some guy with really pointy nails and eyebrows and a goatee with a bit of dust or sand, if it's Arabian Nights.
He kind of looks like he's gaining 1 life.
If that, I mean, this is like a quarter of a life. Just an F. What I would like to see from this card is an alter of it where he's holding a flashlight in his hand instead of magic dust, because that's what he's doing. Look at the lighting on his face.
He's telling a scary story at the campfire.
He is, yeah.
All right, I'm coming down to F. You know what? I don't know why I would fight for this card. F.
Don't. Yeah, just flunk it. Okay, I feel a lot better about this next one, which is a Tom Fleming Dark Ritual from Urza's Saga. I feel like this is a great save from the last one. The art is really understated here in a way that the arts we've seen so far have not been. It's really obvious that something horrible has happened to this poor creature that I'm going to assume is a goblin that's just been sacrificed. But we don't actually see the act. We just see the aftermath of it. And there's this white sheet off to the right here that adds to this impression that the ritual is kind of something to be concealed and kept out of sight.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, one of the things that jumped out at me here is I think Dark Ritual is a weirdly hard thing for an artist to get across in this way. Like a lot of black cards that have a kind of ritual theme imply some kind of trade-off or price. Like they're often themed around negotiating with, say, demons or like evil powers, right? And you pay life or you sack a creature, or maybe you even lose the game if you're not able to meet their conditions. So you have this kind of like this bargain being struck. But this, like the price of Dark Ritual, there is no price to Dark Ritual, right? Except I guess like card disadvantage. You're not paying any cost. And so there is this slight disconnect here in this art of like, there's really nothing in Dark Ritual that requires sacrificing a goblin. And so there's a little bit of a miss there for me. Against that, I will say I love this art. I mean, I think on a technical level, this is great. I like the kind of understated horror, as you mentioned. I like the machine altar that the goblin is laying on top of. Again, it's like this subtle little Phyrexian thing going on. I think from a technical standpoint, this is extremely accomplished.
I like that point about there is no real sacrifice happening here. And a lot of the art suggests that there might be. This art might be better off on that other mana source that I mentioned a few cards ago, Culling the Weak, where you actually do have to sacrifice a creature.
Oh, this would have been perfect for Culling the Weak. And it totally goes with the Phyrexian kind of vibe, too, Culling the Weak.
Right. Well, Culling the Weak, I mean, there's definitely a goblin being sacrificed in that art. And the flavor text there is also Phyrexian themed. So it's all coming together.
This also has a couple of modern frame reprints, which I think is fun. It first appeared in Dual Decks Phyrexia versus the Coalition, and then on the list. And then also in a Japanese promo printing, which looks really, really cool. And that might be the new Dark Ritual for my cube. It's just super unique.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Yeah. Oh, what is your rating? I'm an A.
Oh, it's an A for me.
Huh, I'm surprised it doesn't get to S. You gushed about it so strongly.
Yeah, I really like the altar, but if you look closely, there's some kind of weird proportions and angles to it that get a little jarring the closer you look. I'm just completely nitpicking here, but
no, I see what you mean. The vanishing point seems slightly off, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's just some little details that are a little off.
Okay, while we're critiquing this great piece of art that I could never produce, I have two other critiques of it. One is I don't really get this vial. It looks too small to contain all the goblin's blood. And also it's like floating.
They must just be like changing that out every couple of seconds.
That'll keep you busy.
Yeah, there's a Phyrexian just outside the frame who's just constantly swapping out vials.
So that kind of bugs me. And also there's a slight mismatch of scale here where the hand is like too big. Or like we should be seeing part of the body, or there's just an arm on top of the altar. Like I can't quite make sense of the size of the altar and the size of the hand.
I was thinking about that. Like it's kind of too close to the top to fit. Like the goblin's too big for the altar.
Yeah, unless the altar is like 12 feet wide or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, it's still an A, but yeah, come on, Tom, get it together. All right, next up, we have Rebecca Guay's Dark Ritual, originally printed in Mercadian Masques. I love this piece. I am a Rebecca Guay stan, so I'm hugely biased. And there's a couple things I like about it. One is that it's the first card to like really acknowledge the threeness of Dark Ritual. Like we saw a little bit of that in the Mirage art, but frankly, I'm not convinced that wasn't a coincidence. But in this one, it's clear that Rebecca Guay has understood what the card does. And we have this kind of three like little coven of witches, and then we have an eye up above, which maybe that's the one mana you're putting into it. I don't know. But anyway, there's like there's a very clear acknowledgement of the effect of the card here, which I like. And there's also kind of a feminine energy here that I find interesting. Like most of the other Dark Rituals are kind of very masculine, right? We have these, we've got Leshrac with his huge abs. We got the guy in the Mirage one, the just skinny guy. We got the big over the top, evil demon. I don't need to keep listing them. But like here we've got, with the soft purple cloud and the like eyelashes on the eye and the feminine clothing, like this is kind of a feminine evil ritual, and I like that. And I like that we've got kind of a witch's chant going on down in the flavor text that marries together really well. Like the flavor text here is, Eye of Twilight, give us sight, take our offer, give us might, make our power tears of night. I like that. It's a little on the nose, but it's still cool. So like this is almost an S for me. The one thing that holding it back in my mind is there's kind of a looseness to it. Like Rebecca Guay's art is always kind of ethereal and abstract, but usually she's got a really strong grasp of like physics and control of her lines. And like, even though it looks sort of wispy, everything looks like it's there exactly where she wanted it. And I don't quite feel that way looking at this. Like the circle isn't quite circular. The eye and the cloud don't really meet or marry together. Like there's a slight kind of first draft quality here that I don't love.
Yeah, it feels a little bit unfinished. I think especially the eye for me. Like if you look closely, the eye really does look like it was just done in pencil very quickly, and then with maybe a ballpoint pen going over it.
Yeah, and it's just kind of sitting on top of the cloud. It doesn't feel like it's emerging from the cloud or part of the cloud.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel connected to the cloud at all, which is a little jarring to me. But in a way, the unfinished nature of the eye makes it a little more creepy or unsettling to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just floating up there. We don't know why it's there or what the Eye of Twilight is or what power these tears of night are that the spellcasters are chanting here.
Can I ask you a like almost heretical question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the original version of this did not have the eye, and then that was a little too bland or not magical enough or dark enough?
That definitely seems possible, and I think I would like it better that way.
I feel like as a piece of art, I would like it better. I don't know. I wish it's the kind of thing that you can't really find answers to, but it just feels to me like maybe that was an afterthought.
Yeah, I do like that the ritual here it's not scary in the way that most of the rituals we've seen are. The last one was literally a goblin's like blood pouring into a vial, and we had our big demon clown back in 5th edition. And then this is, you don't really see anything terrible happening here, but I still don't really want to be near this ritual.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm an A on this. It's not quite to S just because of that slightly unfinished quality, but where do you land, Connor?
It's a B for me. I love Rebecca Guay as well, but this one's just a little too odd and a little too kind of first draft feeling, like you said, and I just can't latch onto it the way I want to.
I can see that, yeah. Interestingly, this is the only one of these older Dark Ritual arts, besides the utterly forgettable Tempest art, to never have gotten a reprint, which surprises me given how beloved an artist Rebecca Guay is. I wonder if there's some kind of licensing issue or something. That just feels like free money, though, to me, to reprint this.
It really does, yeah. I'm surprised we haven't seen this as some kind of secret lair or something.
Yeah, where is the Rebecca Guay secret lair? Does Wizards and Rebecca Guay hate money, or...
I think we could safely say at least one of them does not.
Yeah, all right. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's go to our next Dark Ritual, which is a big leap forward in time to 2009. When was this Guay one done? 1999,
I believe. So we have a full decade without any new Dark Ritual art.
A full decade, which is similar to what happened in our Counterspell episode.
Well, I think because Wizards had decided these were both too powerful, sort of rightly, and... this is kind of before supplemental products, right? There were no Masters sets. There were no anthology sets. There weren't even really dual decks. There was nowhere to put these awesome cards.
Yeah, there was no Commander. There was no Modern.
Right.
Anyway, this Dark Ritual, 2009, it's in the newer frame, and it's a Judge gift card. I don't really know what the story behind this particular Dark Ritual is or why it has some of the strangest art I've ever seen. But I wish I did.
Yeah, Wizards often lets artists run a little bit loose with Judge promos. I feel like that was they were almost the proto secret lair. I see in your notes you called this like a Majora's Mask creature, and I was like, as I was looking at this, I was like, this is like a Zelda thing, and I can't put my hand on what. Guy. Yes, this is like a Majora's Mask guy, and I don't really know why he's here. It kind of I don't know how to feel about this. Like I think aesthetically it's great. I don't know, something about it doesn't really feel like a Dark Ritual, like kind of like the Phyrexian one, but more so. It implies this sort of sacrifice that just isn't there in Dark Ritual's mechanical effect. So there's a jarring quality to me there, even though as I think this is a great piece.
Well, and it's a sacrifice of something that's completely unrecognizable, right? Like the Urza Saga version, we can tell just from the hand this is a goblin that's being sacrificed. Here, like this is not a recognizable Magic the Gathering creature, which as you said, it's a Judge Bromo, so maybe there's more of a free reign there. But like, what is this thing? It's like a little tree creature with Majora's Mask on, for some reason being turned into a big cloud of dust.
Yeah, I feel like he is like a little tree creature, although even then it's kind of confusing, right? Like your brain wants to perceive him as having a right side up face, but then if you look at the position of his arm, it suggests that it's the other way around. So it's like it's a mask or an upside down mask. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's hard to process. A lot of unanswered questions here.
Yeah, it's definitely sinister with the way, like, if you zoom in, that his abdomen has been kind of cracked open like a tree trunk and this gas is pouring out. It's pretty sick. Sick in both the sense of being cool and being very evil.
So how do you feel about this one, tier-wise?
I don't know. I feel like it's a B to me just on the strength of the art, even as I feel like it doesn't really feel like a Dark Ritual to me, but I do think it's a really nice piece.
Yeah. I'm at a C, hovering between a B and a C, because it makes me so confused.
It's a super confusing.
I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't know. Let's just leave it there. B, C, somewhere in there.
Yep. We'll stick with C.
All right. Next up, we have Richard Wright for the Amonkhet Invocations series. This is like an easy D for me, and I feel like D is generous for a couple of reasons. One, I get 0 ritual from this. Like if this card was called Dark Temple, like maybe this art could work for me, but like there is no ritual going on except maybe some very faint purple lines. But this is basically just like a brooding temple. And then also like so many of these invocations, there is an overwhelming digitalness to this art. Like every line is perfectly straight. There's tons of like lens flare and lighting effects going on. Like it's like utterly perfectly symmetrical. Like I don't know. I really don't like it. Almost anything about it.
Yeah, the invocations are funny like that. There is just a little too much sort of help, I think, especially with the lighting on this one from the computer in a way that feels wrong on a Magic card. And the frame itself is also very shiny and digital.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's why they did it. Like I've only seen an invocation card in person unsleeved a handful of times, and they almost all work better in that venue because they are so foily and shiny. They don't look kind of cornball in the way they look on the computer screen, which I remember was always the argument when they came out of like Wizard said they look better than you think, but everyone hated them on Reddit and blah blah blah. But I don't know. I just if I take my fingers and cover up the frame and just look at the art is like. We often use this comparison, but the art is like a loading screen from like Titan Quest.
Oh man, it really is,
isn't it? It's like you're moving to the Egypt.
What if we use the Titan Quest comparison?
Well, we often say things look like loading screens from older RTSs.
I'm definitely going to be pulling that one out now. Yeah, the scale of this art to me, it looks. Something that's really confusing to me is it looks absolutely epic from afar, like just this massive temple with these huge, God Pharaoh, Nicole Bolas horns poking up there. And then you look closer and you go, like, hang on, those are only like 20 feet tall. And the ritual is just some kind of purple wispy energy floating around. Even when you see what the ritual is here, it doesn't look like much of a ritual. So I kind of feel like this is great arm's length art. Like I'm sure this does look better in person on a real printed card. And maybe this Dark Ritual is just one that you admire as it sits in your hand of very expensive Magic cards, but don't look too close at it.
There is a blown up version of the art that I just messaged you. And I think in that, like, are there like worshippers making their way up the steps here? I think so.
Oh yeah, you can see them. You can see them on this card. Look closely.
Again, like I look at them, going back to that like early 3D game thing, they all appear to be the exact same like Maya model in slightly different poses. Like again, they're just way too similar.
Yeah, it's also very symmetrical, which could work for a piece like this, but when it looks like someone used like an actual symmetry tool in a digital art application, then doesn't stick the landing.
Yeah, I'm also realizing I wish I'd thought to bring it up earlier, but there was an older TCG player article, or not older, oh my gosh, it's only from a month ago. We're in trouble, Connor, ranking the Dark Ritual art in Magic.
Oh boy.
And the author of this piece, Quentin Bartholomew, who I'll link if people want a different perspective, ranks this as his number 3 Dark Ritual of all time. So I don't know what to do with that. And the Clint Langley one that we thought was super over the top, number 4, Ken Meyer Jr., he has middle of the pack. So this is definitely in the eye of the beholder. Incidentally, let us know in the YouTube comments or Reddit where you disagree with us.
Yeah, where, everyone has a different perspective on these arts.
Yeah, so I'm a D. Where did you land on this?
So I had it at a B, but I'm sort of gradually coming to a C the more I look at it and the more kind of bored I am by it.
Yeah, bored is about right for this. It's just a little bit boring.
Okay, let's move on to a more exciting one. This is a Strixhaven Mystical Archives printing of Dark Ritual by Robbie Trevino, the English version. And for me, this is sort of the opposite of the Invocations Dark Ritual we just saw. The closer you look at this, the more you're rewarded, I feel like. There are all these interesting details, a third hand coming out of the wizard's cloak, echoing back to those 3s that we saw in other arts. There are these nails protruding from the wizard's hood that kind of add a little extra sinister touch to it. There are these skull shapes in the dark cloud that's surrounding the spellcaster, these shapes kind of lining the bottom of the piece, which sort of remind me of those lost souls in Ursula's lair in The Little Mermaid, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep, 100% know what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, it's just, there's so much going on here, and I love every part of it.
As you said, the deeper you look, the more you see. Like another example is there's this kind of this series of black kind of arcing shapes around her, and if you look closely, there are skulls coming off of it that are generating the black smoke that surrounds her. Going back to the 3s, you've got this really strong theme of 3s running through here, right? Of like, she has 3 hands, or there are 3 hands. I don't know if they're all hers. You've got her body or her cloak or whatever you want to call it is a like super sharp edge triangle. You've got these 3 rings around her. Like you've got this like these repeating layers of 3ness, but it's not so over the top that it becomes oppressive or corny. It's just like this motif that rewards you for looking more deeply at the art.
Yeah, I didn't notice the triangular cloak. That's a good call out.
Yeah, the other thing I really like here, to me, this is the first and actually I think the only piece we look at that to me really answers the question of like, how does the Dark Ritual work? Like to my earlier point, it doesn't work by sacrificing a creature. It doesn't seem to have any cost. And so my read on it, certainly from this piece, is it's drawing on your own intrinsic powers as a super evil wizard. That like the Dark Ritual you're conducting here is not like service to some other entity or some evil sacrifice. It's simply that you've gone so deep in your mastery of black magic that you can just take 1 mana and transform it into 3 by your own like black selfish power.
I like that.
Yeah, that's my read on how Dark Ritual should be. So all future artists, like take note. It should like flow from your own ego and your own ability.
Yeah, I hope all of our aspiring Dark Ritualists are taking notes on how to do it right.
Yeah, I think we've kind of established the best way to do it here.
Another interesting detail, though, is that, for all of the black mana that's being created here, the background of this piece is a sun. And the energy that's being summoned is white.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of a little mystery in here, right? Like, is that the sun in the world of light that's being betrayed? Like, I don't know. It's sort of left unspoken.
Yeah. There's just so much to think about here.
I like that this quotes Lim Duel. I think that's kind of fun that this ancient magic character gets name checked. And like, as I understand it, the conceit of the Mystical Archives is that they're a collection that Strixhaven maintains of some of the most powerful spells from throughout the multiverse. And I like that this kind of canonically says, hey, the Lim Duel ritual from Ice Age, the silly Ice Age art, like that is the original canonical Dark Ritual. And I think that's kind of fun. And I like that Lim Duel gets kind of an upgrade here in his flavor text. He sounds much less corny and much less weak than in the Ice Age one. This flavor text says, they distrust my methods, but when they want results, whom do you think they seek? Incantations of Lim Duel. I like that. I like that kind of self-assurance that runs through that.
I mostly like that flavor text until the part where it says incantations of Lim Duel. Like, is this an incantation?
Yeah, I think this is, this is the thing in the archive. This is his book or a page from his book.
Oh, I see. Okay. Coming around a little. I might upgrade it to an S for that.
Yeah, I'm an A on this. I don't know why I'm not an S. You know what? I'm an S, Connor.
Yeah.
Why would I hold back? This is an S tier.
Bring it up to an S. I think if I were to put a Dark Ritual in my cube, I think this would be the one.
This is the one. All right. Let's go to the other Strixhaven Mystical Archive piece by an artist called Rien with a period. Rien. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, and I'm not sure why it has a period after it, but I like it. I also really like this art. To me, this art looks like it kind of emerged from a book of Japanese fairy tales, and it looks like a book of Japanese fairy tales that I want to read. One of the things I quite like about this is it sort of tells a story or suggested a story in the art, and I think part of the secret there is that it's a little complex, right? So we have these white kind of ghostly figures shrouding the area behind and around the central figure casting the ritual. But then we also have this one red demonic arm sort of emerging from nothing behind. And there's there's a mystery there, or a tension of like, well, which one is it? Whose powers are being called on? Is it both? What does that mean? I like the expression on the figure. There's like a little bit of worry in their face, maybe a little determination. It's ambiguous. It's kind of hard to read. I like the kind of calm setting contrasting with this like spirit realm rising out. I really like this piece.
This is another one that I want to like more. Kind of like the Japanese mystical archives counterspell that we saw in our last episode. But this just doesn't really do it for me. I do like this kind of old school occult vibe of, this person with a very emotionally complex expression, given how few lines have really gone into the face.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in this circle of candles, summoning, I guess, some horrible spirits. But I think it's just a little too simple for me. Like the walls are completely unadorned. The floor is just completely plain slats, wood floor. The clothes don't really have anything going on. And I don't know. It's missing that extra pop for me.
But I feel like that simplicity, that austerity even is part of what makes the piece work in a couple of senses. One, I feel like it makes it look like an old Japanese woodblock print, like 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And two, I think it like in Understanding Comics, Scott McCloud talks about how like in Disney movies, you have these really simple characters on really richly detailed backgrounds. And what that does is it lets you A, kind of focus your attention on the character, and B, project yourself into the character because of this contrast. It's a realistic world with a simple character. Now, I feel like in this case, what I see is the simple background to me allows the kind of central character and the demon and the spirits to kind of take center stage and not have the background get in the way. Because I feel like if you had a really rich background with these kind of simple line art characters, like you would lose the kind of central story here.
Yeah.
Do you buy that, or is that just BS, Connor?
I mean, it sounds very persuasive. You argue your case well, but I think it is the simple background. Like I just wish there was, maybe if one of these paper doors behind him was shoji, was open to a night sky or something, or just some kind of.
But it can't be open because this is a clandestine evil ritual, Connor.
I know, but what if the shoji was open and the spirits were coming in through it or something? I don't know.
Okay,
it's just
interesting.
I really like where this is going and the sort of feeling that it's evoking. It has this kind of sinister melancholy to it that I don't think any of the other dark rituals we've seen have, but it just doesn't have that spark for me. I can't really say why.
All right, well, I'll allow it. I'm gonna give this an A. I really like it.
All right, I have it at a C, but that just seems ridiculous. So I'm gonna go to a B.
All right.
Okay, this one's a lot easier for me to rate and explain. This is the 40k dark ritual from, I believe, the Ruinous Powers deck. The piece is by Wonchun Choi, and it is 3 fat flies crawling around on a skull. That's it. Do you have anything to add?
What's your rating?
It's an F for me.
Why is it an F?
I mean, I get that they needed to add different artwork to, make this click in the 40k deck. Like none of the art we've seen so far would really fit into the 40k setting. But is this really the best that the Ruinous Powers can muster? Like 3 flies in eye sockets and a nose? Like it's just some nasty flies crawling around on a skull. That's not a ritual. It's not.
It's not. I'm less harsh on it because I kind of like how weird it is. Like I guess I give some points for originality. Like there's no other dark ritual that looks remotely close to this.
Good.
I like that there are 3 flies for the 3 black. I mean, it's kind of like there's 3 black mana symbols just sitting in the middle of the art.
I know, but they're flies. I don't want my black mana to be flies.
I guess I just don't really get it. Like to me, it just doesn't make any sense as a dark ritual. Like I kind of like it as a piece of art, but I agree that it's pretty incoherent.
There's no ritual here, and the flavor text sort of feels like it's trying to explain it a little bit. It says, "Praise Nurgle for the plague to have progressed so quickly. Truly his blessing must be upon us. Kugath, Plague Father." Dark ritual's not about a plague.
I do think the flavor text is funny for what it's worth. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to go to F, but this is definitely like a D, probably. I'll go to D.
Yeah, I'm sticking with F. These 3 flies are not convincing me.
All right. After 3 gross flies, let's do our best to end on a high note. We have a secret lair drop piece here by Frank Frazetta. And this piece is amazing. So I'm giving this an S. I don't mind just throwing that out there right at the start. Part of that is because Frank Frazetta, the godfather of fantasy art, I would feel kind of bad giving him anything much lower. But I also think this piece, really works for Dark Ritual. This piece to me is pure unadulterated power. This is kind of what the Clint Langley piece is trying to do, but in a way that somehow is just as over the top evil, but doesn't look corny to me. I like the kind of unthinkable trade-off that it presents. You're trading your very flesh for the power to do this dark magic. I love the soft earth tones, everywhere in the piece, except for this fiery, kind of just huge splats of oil on canvas. That's the magic coming down from above. I like the skill on display to convey the velvet texture of the robe in very little space and in very few brushstrokes. I think this is just a masterwork. You can reach out and touch it and put yourself in this piece, and it's also incredibly simple and clean. S tier for me. Amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty phenomenal, and I think one of the more expensive rituals we've looked at today with good reason. Aside from it being in a secret lair drop, it is just beautiful, beautifully executed. You can look at it and know that this is a real piece of art on a canvas somewhere, with real oil paints that have been splashed across this necromancer's hands.
Cool. What's your rating, Connor?
I mean, I had an A, but I don't know why.
You could be an A. I am curious. Why not S? Even if you're changing to S, what is it you think that held you back?
I don't know. I guess, it is pretty simple, but it's a very effective kind of simple. I think I've been spoiled by so much magic art that has so much going on in it. We've looked at all of these Kamigawa cards that have these massively complicated, over-the-top spirits that have all kinds of, little things floating around them and too many mouths and too many eyeballs, just a visual explosion in a way that Frank Frazetta painting is not bringing. But I have so much respect for this piece in a way that I don't for most of those, that I think it does need to be an S.
Yeah, and I wonder what this is from originally, because of course Frank Frazetta died 12 years before this was printed. So I wonder what piece of art his estate dug up for this.
They nailed it.
All right, so we've been ending this. We ended the Counterspell one on a question of which of these should I put in my cube? Connor, which of these should I put in my cube?
I think you've got to praise Nurgle with this 40k fly fest.
No, just because I didn't give it an F doesn't mean I'm sticking that piece of mediocrity in.
I would lean toward the Mystical Archives one. I have a real soft spot for just the Mystical Archives frame in general, but so many of the spells printed with that frame and with the very special style of art just really click for me, so that's the one I'd choose.
I'm glad you said that. I'm right there with you. I love this Frank Frazetta piece, but apart from the fact it's 5 to 10 times the price.
Yep.
The Mystical Archives one is very magic, right? I love the Frank Frazetta piece. I think it's an amazing piece of art, but this one is to me, this Mystical Archive piece is magic art at the height of its powers. And while there's a lot about recent magic sets to complain about, I can't complain about Wizards' art direction. They are just taking it to the next level the last couple of years. And this kind of adventurous art style is one of the big reasons why.
Absolutely.
So Connor, I was so inspired by the Rebecca Guay painting and the accompanying poem in the flavor text that I actually wrote you a poem.
Oh.
And I'm wondering, are you okay if I share it with the listeners, or would you prefer it's just for you?
Please do. Put it out in the world.
Okay, all right. If nostalgia and trivia you'll never outgrow, and our musings amuse, then subscribe to the show. Some cards will we love, some cards will we hate, but we promise this show will always be great.
Oh, wow. That was great.
Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
Thanks, Connor. If you did like the show, subscribe to it, follow it on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. That helps ensure that you never missed an episode. And if you really liked it, share it with a friend. We're still young. We're still growing. This show is needs nurturing. So share it with a Magic playing friend over Discord or text or something like that. And if you agreed or disagreed with our ratings, please comment on YouTube or Reddit, email us, clockspinningpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what we got right and wrong. We'll join you soon for more old Magic cards. But until then, I'm Austin.
And I'm Connor.
Thanks for listening.